Hello fellow gamers and welcome to another NX Gamers video, this time coming from EGX. I got out and have been busy looking at some new games this week at the EGX show in Birmingham. It's moved from its usual location from London to the NEC, and it was a great day. I had a chance to speak to some developers on certain games, obviously get some hands-on some of the big games, and unlike last year, what I'm going to do is break it down so that each video concentrates on one game that I played there, and where possible some direct feed footage. And today's video is going to concentrate on that big game this year. Yes, Ubisoft have not given up on Assassin's Creed, and they are again making another game. Desperate to make amends from the disaster that was Assassin's Creed Unity, they have had the public development very open over the last 9 months, with the game being brought to public shows and gameplay sessions so that gamers can have a feel of the game, give feedback, and the game can develop basically in the open public eye. Unfortunately, that eye seems to have been a little bit squinted. Now, I must stress that this game was obviously the build from Gamescom earlier in the year, back in August. So this is a few months old now, but this game launches in about 24 days. Now, this is the first time I have managed to get hands-on with this game. I did manage to play Unity much earlier last year, and unfortunately I'm going to start off with the honest opinion of this game. It doesn't sit in a much better position than I saw Unity at the same point last year, actually slightly earlier. This game is going to launch in basically 24 days. And as it stands at the moment, what I played at EGX was not a shining beacon of an example of how this game is going to play. Now, this is pre-alpha that I played here, and obviously that's acceptable, that's perfectly fine, and they may fix all of these issues. So I will stress again, this is a pre-alpha version that I'm talking about. Let's get the metrics out of the way. It's definitely running 900p still on the PS4 version that I played. It definitely was a PS4 version. I checked that out when I was playing the game, and it was a 20-minute session, so as direct capture was not allowed on this, obviously, so let's use the footage that was made available from Gamescom and talked over by lead game developer Scott Phillips. This is what you're seeing here. These were actual PS4 consoles that these were playing on, development machines obviously, but they were playing on an OS system from the PS4. Now, let's go on to the actual gameplay. Obviously the black box solution that was seen in Unity is in place again here. So this basically means you can play the game, or at least the missions that they choose, in a more open structure. The mission here was Evie was brought in on the river, and in the Tower of London you then had to get up to your vantage point to begin the mission, and you were shown 3 examples of how you could go about that. The first choice that I made, as we were given 20 minutes, I managed to finish the demo twice and nearly a third time within that time. Give you an idea how quick you can sift through this mission. Even though this was the first time I played this game, it's very familiar to Assassin's Creed fans. The first choice was to sneak in with the guard, so use the guard that's disguised himself, kill the 2 of the guards, the Templars that are hiding at the top of the tower, and then sneak in with this guard, keep yourself away from everybody else, and then you have to control your movement as he basically pretends to keep you hostage, and then you get up to your assassination and you kill her. Job done. The other option was to then go through and break out the colonel that was captive in the tower somewhere. You found the keys, broke him out, and then you can recruit the soldiers around the area to fight on your behalf, and then basically storm the tower, which was the second option that I took. This enables you to then bring them in behind you, start a fight, and let them carry on, so you don't have to go around killing everyone yourself. And it's a little bit more action-packed, and obviously recruiting people is a big part of this game. The third option was to basically take the main keys, open up and sneak in, which is very similar to the second option really, because that's how I killed the assassination that time, but I didn't manage to complete that because the 20 minutes were up. In terms of gameplay, it's exactly the same. The big benefit is the grapple hook that you've now got, where you can shoot across and speedily travel between buildings helps, and obviously pull yourself up to the top of buildings very quickly now without the laborious task of climbing every 5 seconds, or at least climbing down. The control system works the same as it did in Unity, although you can now get into Windows without any problems, which is a big benefit. Outside of that, there's not a great change in its gameplay style, certainly what I sampled here with the Evie. The combat is still a bit chuggy, and it doesn't flow very well between itself, and combat just feels broken. Overall, it plays as you would expect an Assassin's Creed game to play, and the cutscenes look very good. So overall, the demonstration here is a very honest showing of how the game played out. They're not hiding anything here. What they are doing, not unsurprisingly, is editing it down so that they're showing you the highlight points of the game and not the bad points. Unfortunately, when you get into conflicts, and certainly when you get into a battle with 2 or 3 enemies on the screen, but the game does still suffer from frame rate issues. The game has issues when you're up in the air, when you're coming down to the tower, but it's not smooth, it's not a locked 30. Some of this is to do with the fact that the game desperately is crying out for some motion blur somewhere in its animation system and somewhere in its movement, because it's highlighting the fact that it's a 30 FPS game and it's not a smooth 30 FPS. Now, whether there's pacing issues also in the game, obviously I can't analyse this, I'm just looking at it with my own eyes. A rough guess would be the frame rate is pretty much the same as AC Unity when you're travelling around, but when you get into fights, it can probably drop to low 20s again, and some of the battles I got into, it felt really chuggy. The blend of animation frames and certainly in-game and characters fighting, it all comes across as a little bit ropey and old school, like they're trying to make everything fit into the game rather than creating animation frames and keyframes from scratch again. Some of the cutscene sequences do highlight the fact that there seems to be a bit of a pareback, certainly in the pre-alpha version, again understandable, from what we saw in the final release of Unity. The lighting engine is just as sumptuous and the texture work in areas is just as nice, but there does seem to be an inconsistency again with the amount of assets they've created here. Certainly facial animation is not as good as what we saw in Unity, and character animation is probably about the same, but it's the issues and the amount that I saw. The main character in Evie here was transparent. You could spin the camera around and see through her. So this was from characters and scenery. It didn't stand out. It was a very subdued transparency. Maybe an issue with her chameleon powers, but it just shouldn't be there in a game this close to launch. On top of that, when you went into battles and certainly using the voltaic bomb, you had issues with characters flipping out and physics kicking in, didn't die quite properly. And then battles themselves were jumpy. You were hitting people and not getting the impact. Sound disappeared as I was playing. I completely lost all sound, although this happens on the Rainbow Six beta as well. So there is still issues in this game. It is a pre-alpha, like I say. There's certainly work that they need to do on the game. But there was other things. Movement and setting off set pieces didn't trigger. You had to stand in the right place. Icons didn't appear when you were picking things up. Characters noticing you and their cone of vision was very limited, to the point where stealth wasn't really needed. You could just fly overhead and then ignore you. And there was other things, you know, there were so many issues that I couldn't really list them in the time I had 20 minutes to play through, and any Q&A tester would have picked these up left, right and centre. I don't think they're going to be able to fix all of these things in time for launch. The performance issues are still there. They're not as bad, but they're still there. This is not a lock solid 30 frames per second. The visual side of it doesn't impress as much as Unity did, but that could be down to the quality of the area they're in. We'll have to see how other parts of the game play through. I don't know whether or not it's got a day and night cycle running in real time. It probably hasn't. It feels like it's going to run the same as Unity, with a different environment and a different structure line, and maybe some slightly better performance at launch. I don't think they can fix all of the issues with this engine unless they decide to rewrite the whole thing. AnvilNext looks set to become another engine of this generation that continues the trend of Assassin's Creed games that don't quite make the performance levels they should make based on all previous games. Black Flag is an exception. It is the most solid performing and best playing Assassin's Creed game, in my opinion, that they've made. But in terms of performance metrics, that's without question. It absolutely is the best performing game. This game is not going to change that. This feels and plays very much like Unity, and it has very similar issues on the consoles. I cannot expect PS4 or Xbox One to have an improved frame rate and have an improved resolution than what I saw. I expect some of the issues to be fixed and some of the glitches to be fixed, and it's certainly a more solid state than overall what I played on AC Unity. But I haven't played all of this game yet. I've just played a level they decided to allow people to play in the public domain. And the PC release will be another question mark upon launch. Hopefully this pre-alpha is just really old and they've got a lot of work to do, and they'll fix those issues, because AC is a great game and a great franchise. But my personal opinion is it just needs a year off to give the teams the time it needs to make the right game, and maybe, just maybe, reevaluate whether or not AnvilNext is really the right engine for this generation. Anyway, as always, I hope you guys and girls enjoyed this. If so, please hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps me immensely, and I appreciate each and every one of you that does. Please stay tuned for more videos to come and far more hands-on information on games that I played over this week and next. You guys and girls take care, and I'll see you very soon on the next one.
Look at what Starrick has done to the city.
We will free London from Starrick.
We take over Starrick's gangs,
We cripple his control.
We welcome all who would stand up to Starrick and his cutthroats. As of this moment, you all work for us.
I'm here to see Mr. Roth.
Weapons?
No, thank you. I've got my own.
The aura of death surrounds thee both.
Mr. Starrick sends his regard!
You're a child who believes he can solve all the world's woes with a flick of a blade.
We're not playing games anymore, Roth!
What did you accomplish, boy?
You will not stop, Starrick. Our city will die.
Once more for old time's sake?
And then we're finished.
Agreed.
Have fun.
Don't die.
Well, we seem to have made an unscheduled start.